Hey, welcome to Hot Route Takes. We are wrapping up our division rankings. Today we're going to do the AFC and NFC North. If you guys want to listen to the Southwest or East pod rankings, they are out and available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and TikTok. We have quite a few clips up about these pods. Check us out. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and jump into this thing real quick. And Chase is going to lead us off with the NFC North, but I'm going to go over the rankings real quick from last year. So last year, the Vikings finished first with a 13-4 record. The Lions finished second with a 9-8 record. The Packers finished 8-9. And third place, Bears 3-14, finishing in last. So, who you got it for, Chase?
Yeah, man, this exciting. We've been doing this our final division pod. We've been knocking these out and having some great debates with all our favorite teams. And now we're a week away from football, and we're finishing with the North Division, which my Ravens are in. So we're going to kick it off with the NFC, as you said, and bringing up the rear. Maybe hot take. I have the Green Bay Packers. I don't know how hot that is, considering they lost Aaron, one of the best quarterbacks that's ever stepped foot in their building. But yeah, man, just complete rebuild now. Aaron is on the Jets, and the Packers are moving in a different direction in Jordan Love, whom they drafted quite a few years ago behind Aaron instead of giving him help. But that's neither here nor there. They are finally moving in a different direction, and it's going to be the Jordan Love show. Great arm. We did our QB rankings pod earlier this offseason, and we all talked about how we love his arm talent and the things he can do and the throws he can make on the football field. That said, he hasn't been under the fire yet. This is a revamped offense, especially receiving core is still very young, just young on both sides of the ball, but some promise in a few positions. I'm looking forward to seeing what Christian Watson does in year two. I think he has an elite speed and a route running regimen to his game that he can expand on this year and hopefully develop that connection that Green Bay is going to be looking for out of this future QB and future wide receiver duo. That said, they're still just too young on both sides of the ball for me to pick them over some of the other teams. Last year, they struggled in the defensive passing side of the ball. They allowed the sixth most passing yards in the NFL. And even with some good corners, Jair Alexander being one of the best, they were hurt in the other areas of their secondary. Didn't see a whole lot to improve that in the draft or free agency. They did draft Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa with their first-round pick, so hopefully they can get after the quarterback a little bit more and not have to rely on Jair on the island making plays. But yeah, man, other than that, I just don't see a whole lot from this roster that I'm excited about. The other teams in this division are young as well, but they've got some more exciting pieces in my mind. So I've got the Packers finishing dead last, which would probably be the first time in a while in the NFC North.
Okay. All right.
Hey, you want to go second, Brian, or you want me to go second?
Go ahead, Christian. Go ahead.
All right. Well, at fourth, I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
I did. I went third last pod, but okay, I'll go ahead and go second then. I'll go ahead and
go second, Brian. Mix it up.
All right, man. So I have this is going to be a different pod for sure. We're all going to have a little bit different rankings, I think.
Okay.
So at 4, this is probably a hot take. I got the Minnesota Vikings. Completely tearing down their defense this year, bringing in defensive coordinator Brian Flores. They're going to run this man-predominant system, and I do think they're going to score points. I just think they're going to have to score a lot of points just to be competitive every game. And they got the guys to score points. Kirk Cousins, consistent as all get out every single year, throwing over 4,000 yards. And they didn't get worse, for sure, on the offensive side of the ball, outside of maybe losing Dalvin Cook, who was a diminishing asset anyway. And Alexander Madison is their lead back. They just signed Myles Gaskin. we'll see what that looks like. I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of success running the football. Their offensive line has some decent pieces here, especially their left tackle, Christian Darrisaw, and TJ Hawkinson at the tight end position is a nice piece. But in the receiver room, I do think it's extremely top heavy, and they only have 4 receivers on their 53-man roster right now. With Justin Jefferson, they have 6 receivers. My bad, but Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne leading the way, and that's a hell of a three-man duo or trio right there. And then backing up, they got Jalen Naylor, Brandon Powell, Malik Knowles. I don't know who these guys are really. I ain't gonna lie to you, but they got a high-end front 3, and they don't have a whole lot of depth behind that. But other than that, their offense is going to score points. Like I said, defense is going to struggle. They do got some good pieces here. I'm not going to say they don't. Harrison Smith's still a good player, but he is definitely really getting up there in age at this point. He's definitely not what he was 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. They just brought in Byron Murphy, play for the Cardinals. Versatile corner, play inside, play outside. Ideally, you want him in the nickel. We'll see what Brian Flores does. He likes to move guys around. Marcus Davenport's good player. Danielle Hunter, very good player when he's on the field. We'll see if he can stay healthy this year. But other than that, man, there's really just not a whole lot here on the defensive side of the ball. I think the NFC North in general is going to overachieve the entire division. I think versus the other divisions out there, they're just a little bit stronger. Maybe you can make a case for the NFC East. They got, Dallas. They got Philadelphia, the Commanders, the Giants, which is good in its own right. But if you look at the bottom teams in the NFC North, I'm going to take them over the Commanders. I'm going to take them over the Giants. And potentially some of these teams are right there with Dallas. Maybe. We'll see what that looks like. Like I said, Dak's going to be relied on heavily this year. So they might come down a little bit. They could rise to the occasion and be right there with Philly. But I do think Minnesota kind of falls off this year. I think they were honest with themselves, and they're starting to enter into a rebuild. This may be the end of Kirk Cousins' tenure.
This is going to be a good pod, boys. At 4, I have the Chicago Bears. I think, they just had the number 1 pick. I understand people are hyped that they went out. They did spend some money. They did, but they really didn't do much to me to help this offensive line. I seen Justin Fields sacked. I think it was average 3 times a game, most sacked quarterback in the league last year. They traded their first overall pick to get him a weapon finally, and DJ Moore. So I think they're doing everything correct. They're moving in the right steps, at least offensively, to try to let Justin Fields be more this year, maybe get to see what he is, but also they hinted at they do want to keep running the ball with Justin Fields, and if that is in their intentions in future. Last year when they did start running the ball a lot with him, he got hurt. So, if you are going to keep that offense how you're trying to plan it out and maybe throw the ball but keep Justin Fields moving, I just don't know with this offense line you have there how, hopeful as a Bears fan you would be that Justin Fields is going to play all year. Granted, I do like what they did on the defensive side of the ball. They went and got Edmonds from the Bills, and they went and got TJ Edwards. And I think this was a desperate move. They needed to help this linebacker crew after getting rid of Raquan Smith. That kind of blew my mind. They got rid of this guy, how much they owed him, and then brought 2 other high-paid linebackers in. But, I think it's a good move for them to get at least, they have 2 dominant linebackers instead of just 1 now. But I just think with kind of what Brian said with this, the wide receivers in this division and how close games are going to be, their corners that's kind of where their weakness is. And in this division, you need corners. So I just think with the offensive line problem, if you're going to keep Justin Fields running and being who you want him to be, it's not going to probably end how Chicago fans want the season to end. That's why I think Justin Fields improved a lot this year. I think, there's some reason was a lot of hate on Justin Fields. At least me and Brian, I can say, showed love to Justin Fields a lot sooner than a lot of other people did. I just seen what he did in college. But other than that, I just think Justin Fields will improve this year. Hopefully they don't run him as much as what I think a lot of Bears fans are hoping. Other than that, Their pass rush needs to improve. Their corners are not that good, and safeties are young too. It's just a young team, really. So I just expect these other teams that have the veteranship still, even with a Minnesota that took a lot of it out, I just expect the veteranship to really take over the division. And just Chicago, like I said, just had the number 1 draft pick, and people tends to forget that. And I just don't know too many teams that could just turn it around out of nowhere.
Yeah, that is completely fair, Christian. And I'm going to build off that because I've got the Bears at 3. A lot of optimism for this fan base, especially with the play of Justin Fields last year. So I see what Bears fans and other people across the league are saying to watch out and be on the lookout for the Bears, especially after getting a weapon like a DJ Moore for a dynamic, talented quarterback in Justin Fields. But I'm just here to pump the brakes a little because they're just still missing some high-end talent at some other key positions. Trading away Roquan Smith, one of the best inside linebackers, set him back. But then they bring in Tremaine Edmonds, who actually led all off-ball linebackers with a 90.0 coverage grade last year among off-ball linebackers. Great player, great deal for them, but that's at best a lateral move to Roquan, so you got to supplement the talent elsewhere, and they have yet to do that with an elite pass rusher, an elite corner, something like that would bring this team up another level. That said, I do like what they did in the draft, getting Darnell Wright, the tackle out of Tennessee, with their 10th overall pick. Big deal keeping Justin Fields upright and healthy all year, and that's a move in the right direction. Still, few other pieces that are lacking. It's going to be a lot of Justin Fields home run ball, just make plays like it was last year, albeit a little less with DJ Moore in the fold. So it won't be so dependent on him, which is a good thing. But that said, I still think the Bears they'll win more than they did last year. I can say that, but I still think they're on the outside looking in the playoff picture.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think Chicago is my number 3 team. Will overachieve a little bit, and I think a lot of the reason will be Justin Fields in this offense. Similarly to the Vikings, I think they're kind of in the same bucket for me. I kind of view these other 2 teams as above, and I went back and forth between Chicago and the Vikings, and I ultimately settled on Chicago because I think this offense is going to blow up here this year. And, the Vikings have a tremendous offense. I'm not trying to diminish what they have in favor of what Chicago has, but I think having Justin Fields, quarterback who is as dynamic as he is on the ground, kind of opens up what this offense can be. And I think people kind of sleep on DJ Moore, man. I think he's an excellent receiver, and I really don't know that we know exactly how good he can be. Now he has a quarterback that maybe can bring some more out of him, because what he had in Carolina was just, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, Baker Mayfield, these guys are not going to unlock DJ Moore maybe to the extent that Justin Fields can, and it kind of works both directions. DJ Moore is going to unlock what Justin Fields got, and I just really favor my college evaluation of Justin Fields. This guy can throw the football. I just don't think he had, 1, the protection in front of him that he needs, 2, the receivers that he needs, 3, the protection. Oh, I already said protection. The coaching. Sorry. The coaching that he needs. The offensive scheme was not where it needed to be. They ran a bunch of curl routes and just man, it was tough to watch the offense at times last year, but they did some interesting things with Justin Fields on the ground, and I think he put the NFL on notice with what he can do with his legs. And I think this year he could take a step in the passing game and really elevate this team. Now, defensively, this team's got some issues, particularly up front. They're a little small, and I think they're going to have a hard time stopping the run. And that's going to kind of be the Achilles heel of this team, is that defensive line. However, they got good pieces here, as you guys mentioned. TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. Tremaine Edmonds actually had the highest PFF grade on the entire Buffalo Bills down some of those middle of the field areas. And then I think their secondary is just maybe a tad bit under roster and coverage rate last year. And, that speaks volumes to what he is as a player. And I think he's going to be excellent lock and rated. Colin Brisker, second-year player or third-year player out of Penn State, second-round pick. Looked pretty good in his own right. Eddie Jackson, when he's been healthy, has been a solid player. Former Pro Bowler. Kyler Gordon, second-round pick. Jalen Johnson, early pick as well. The corner room's a little thin here. They got some highly drafted corners here that need to step up and make something of themselves. But, man, their safeties are all right. And the corners have a lot of potential. So maybe it'll end up being a pretty good secondary this season. I think they got a little bit more than the Vikings here. But ultimately, it comes down to this defensive line having to stop the run. I don't think they will. However, they do have Zach Pickens, who they drafted in the third round. And fun note, I went to high school with him, which was cool. Played football against him in high school, which was pretty cool. It's cool to see the guy make it to the league. But, yeah, I think the Bears blow up this year because of the offense. I do think they're a year from being ready, though. I don't think they're quite ready to compete for this conference.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's why I just put them at 4. Like you said, I just think with how many losses they had last year, and just I don't think it's just going to click just this year coming right out the gate. So I got them at 4, but at 3, I have the Minnesota Vikings. I think, I agree with kind of what Brian said. I'll try to go down a little different avenue, not try to beat the same drum he did. But one thing that people tends to forget, it was like I think they had like 11 one-point wins or something like that last year. They had comeback ever against the Colts. To just me, I just think, I ain't going to say lucky they won a lot of those, but I just don't see a team, one, repeating something like that. So, that's 11 of your games being one-point wins. So I just think with this defense being a bottom unit, I think it was the worst unit in the defense category last year. And I just think with Brian Flores coming over, and I think Brian definitely will preach that just the corners they have on this roster and what he wants to do is just not a mix. It's not going to work. He's going to want a man-to-man. I don't know if he's going to maybe change what we've known him for, at least to this point, until he gets the guys in there he needs. But
I don't think
if that is his goal, I just don't see the Vikings defense doing anything positive this year. I honestly can see them be a bottom unit again, which would not surprise me. And that's kind of what led me to put them so low, is just this defense and how the 11 wins with 1 point. I just can't get behind that and think you're going to repeat something like that. To normally teams with bad defenses just don't win games.
They're also switching from a 4-3 to a 3-4, and that's going
to be tough.
That's a big difference.
And then I will say, though, they did get Jordan Addison. I think this is a great pickup. Honestly, I would not be shocked if this guy was in the Offensive Rookie of the Year, like at least talked about in that category, because he's going to get a lot of looks. And if their defense is as bad as I'm thinking, and like we've all said, they're going to put up points. So this guy's going to have to get involved with that. So I just think that's a good addition for them. But the main thing, like you said, Marcus Davenport's a good piece. I think they have people that get to the quarterback, but then after that, there's Harrison Smith, the hitman. He's still on this team. He's still great. Don't get me wrong, but other than that, if I'm a quarterback and I don't see him over there, I'd be more than willing to at least give my guys a chance to get the ball and catch it on them. So I just do not expect the Vikings to have, like I said, I'm not going to call it luck, but just 11 one-point wins, this defense being a bottom unit again, repeating that. I just think they're going to lose a step and go down. So I definitely can see them being the third place finish in this division.
Okay. Yeah. This division's interesting. So I got the Vikings at 2. So we have 2, 3, and 4 on Minnesota in our rankings. And even though I have them at 2, I still question if they'll make the playoffs, which is odd. Most second-place teams are good enough to make a wild card. And since the NFC is a little weaker, I could see it happening. But the points y'all hit on, the defense is such a question mark. Last season, they allowed over 4,500 yards through the air, and that was 31st in the league. Then you didn't really do much to supplement and add to that unit and make it better. So it leaves a huge question mark for that side of the football for sure. But I will say they're moving in a different direction, a younger direction on that side of the ball. So I want to at least see it before I write them off. They moved on from Dalvin Tomlinson and Patrick Peterson and Eric Kendricks. So all the veterans that were knew that defensive scheme and implemented it and made sure guys were on the same page, even though it might not have been a lot from the looks of it, they're out the door. So it's going to be some young, fresh talent on that side of the ball. They'll have their learning mistakes, and they'll definitely have a number of them next year. But I have them finishing above the other two teams because I think this offense is definitely more trustworthy. Albeit how good Justin Fields is, it's still a improving and learning offensive game down in Chicago. I've seen Minnesota put up points with a good quarterback and the best receiver in football. Then you add the Jordan Addison, who was the last of 4 straight rookie receivers drafted from 18 to 22 or 21, whatever that pick was. Love that addition. This offense is trustworthy enough for me to win you 8, maybe 9 football games. But as you said, they're kind of due to regress too because they won so many close contests last year. You need Kirk Cousins to just be money in money situations, which he was last year. He's not really known for that, but he was last year. And, you know, when you get Justin Jefferson the ball, that can lead to good things. Did it plenty last year. I think he'll keep doing it this year. Justin Jefferson will have another big year, no matter what defenses try to do. He'll have another big year and enough wins for them to finish second in my mind, but still not very, not a threat, even if they make the playoffs. Just the defense looks to be too young to pose any threat to the upper echelon NFC teams.
Yeah, no, that's fair, Chase. I definitely can see it playing out like that. I guess between all the close wins last year, Kirk Cousins playing out of his mind, really, and not being known, like you said, for being clutch. He was so clutch last year. I think he's bound to come back to reality a little bit, and the entire offense in general. But my second team, I got Green Bay. And I think I am higher on Green Bay than a lot of people are. There's a lot of youth on this roster, a tremendous amount of youth on this roster. And a lot of people are questionable, you know, rightfully so, questioning what Jordan Love's going to do here. And I don't know how much film you guys have watched on Jordan Love and his short amount of playing time that he's had in Green Bay, but I thought he's looked pretty good. I thought he showcased his arm talent quite a few times. I thought he showcased his playmaking ability, and also I thought he's been on script and very timely with his throws. So I do think Jordan Love is poised to kind of show everyone, put the league on notice to what he can do as a passer, but also as a playmaker outside of the pocket. This is something I don't think people know all that much about Jordan Love. Is the guy is quite the playmaker, I think, outside of the pocket, because he can throw from so many different arm angles. And I think he's going to have to, because these receivers are so young. I think it's going to cause him to have to make something happen at times, especially with the offensive line, with David Bakhtiari kind of been in and out lineup last couple of years. I think potentially it could get ugly. But I'm betting on some of these guys staying healthy. I'm betting on Jordan Love being what I think he is based on my film analysis. And Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon running that rock this year. I think that's definitely going to happen. Last year, they needed to give the ball Aaron Jones more, in my opinion. And if he does that, I think this offense can be serviceable. And Christian Watson could break out this year. He looked good last year at times. Aaron Rodgers throwing the football, things are a little bit different here. Aaron Rodgers, of course, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play, and that's a big drop-off, you would think, from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. But Aaron Rodgers was not Aaron Rodgers last year. Will Aaron Rodgers bounce back? That's yet to be seen. I don't think that Jordan Love is Aaron Rodgers, but I do think he's going to be able to operate the offense. I think he's a similar style player as well, so they don't have to like completely change what they're doing in Green Bay. He can just kind of slide in. And you know, Green Bay's got a lot of success with quarterbacks. Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and now on to Jordan Love. And he's had plenty of time to sit, and that's the same thing they did with the last two guys. So I believe. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they got 8 first-round picks on this side of the football. Kenny Clark, first-round pick. Devontae Wyatt, first-round pick. Preston Smith, first-round pick. Devontae Campbell, first-round pick. Quay Walker, first-round pick. Rashawn Gary, J.R. Alexander, Darnell Savage. First-round picks, man. This defense is talented. Now, I don't think they quite lived up to expectations last year, but I definitely think they are bound to get better. Particularly having Jair Alexander healthy will be a big bonus. Quay Walker having another year under his belt is going to be a big bonus. And then they got to piece the secondary together a little bit. They need another safety real bad. That's kind of the weak spot on this defense, the safety room, because all they got is Darnell Savage and a whole bunch of nothing besides that. So they're going to need to kind of shore things up on the defensive side of the ball. But I definitely think this division is going to be real close. I think it's going to go down to the last week, except there's going to be one clear number one team, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I mean, I have Green Bay at 2. I maybe don't agree with some of the points you made with the whole Jordan Love thing. I'm not sold on Jordan Love yet. I'm not. I just think, and then another big thing for me is how much was the coaching really coaching the offense is what I'm more interested to see. Or how much was it Aaron changing the plays at the huddle saying, hey, this is what he called in. Hey, we're not running that. Maybe that's why we didn't see as much as Aaron Jones as maybe, people would like. So I think, that's a big question mark to me. And then, you have Aaron having problems with the rookie wide receivers and understanding the system. Now you're bringing a new quarterback in. The system's going to stay the same, but like you said, all the wording's going to change. And then you just spent, your rookie season learning, hey, this is how Aaron wants me to run my route. I need to do this and this. Well, here comes Jordan Love. He wants me to do this and this instead of what this was. So my big question, is one, can not these rookies anymore, but Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs or Dubs, however you pronounce the last name, but is him and Romeo going to get on the same page with Jordan Love is a big question mark for me. If you couldn't even get on the same page with Aaron, that's kind of a red flag to me. Christian Watson, the only knock I have on him, honestly, is he does drop the ball a little bit. People don't, I guess, want to bring that up, but he had a couple drops last year with big drops, but other than that, he's a good number one, I think, clearly on this team. They did go get Luke Musgrave, like Brian hit it on. I expect him to have a big year. I think that's going to be maybe Jordan Love's safety valve at this point in his career. And I think, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Matt does go in the direction and run this ball a lot more at the beginning of the season and trying to just throw Jordan Love out. I think he's going to know week 1, week 2, it's going to be a lot of, well, Aaron would have done that. Aaron would have done this, and he's going to have to hear that by media and everyone else around the league. So I can see Jordan Love maybe not take a back seat to this team early at the season, but I don't expect them to ask much of him and maybe, put, like you just named that defense, a lot on this defensive plate this year and say, listen, guys, hey, Aaron's not here no more. We're not saying that offense is going to be bad, but we need you to play like what we drafted you to play as. So I expect their defense to step it up. And honestly, I can see this defense be a top unit just because we said, these offenses, I think they can maybe make some noise in this division just off of their defense. So that's kind of what made me put Green Bay at 2 is I believe in their defense a lot more than I'd say I believe in Jordan Love and the young wide receiver core.
I did want to add something real quick. So Jordan Love's been in the league since 2020. He's been sitting behind your guy, Aaron Rodgers. He's been learning. Just like Mr. Zach Wilson's probably going to take over for the Jets here.
I hear you. Well, listen, Brian. Listen, all I'm going to say is Jordan Love has played in one game, and what you've seen is preseason. Preseason is preseason.
He played last year. Jordan Love played in real games last year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, with the Aaron injury. Well, still, even that game, I think he only had 12 attempts or something like that. So I just don't expect too much out of Jordan Love early. Like I said, maybe later they give him the keys, but my big thing is just what offense are we really going to see out of Matt LaFleur having full control? I think a lot of that was, Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron's offense more so than Matt's offense. So now we'll actually see his true offense, I guess is a good way to put it. And we're seeing, Jordan Love and not the whole, I think not as much changing at the huddle as we've seen with Aaron in the past with this offense. Hey, not even at the huddle, but at the line.
That's fair. I don't think Jordan Love's going to be changing the play a whole lot, but it's the same system. They're going to be running the same plays. It's the same verbiage. So it should be not a seamless transition for the offense, but Jordan Love is probably going to be pretty comfortable because it's the same stuff. He's been running it for a couple years now. This isn't a rookie quarterback being dropped into a new offense or a new offensive coordinator coming in. It's the same stuff. Of course, there's lots of youth across the roster, but Jordan Love's probably been working with these guys that are going to be in the starting lineup for the last year or so, probably more than Aaron, because some of these young guys were probably working with the second team. And so Jordan Love probably got some reps with some of them. Now, not Christian Watson, but Romeo Doubs probably, and some of these other guys deeper down on the depth chart. There's probably some rapport there, and we'll just have to see. I'm pretty high on them.
I mean, probably the most interesting team in this division to watch because, I mean, as you said, Brian, for 30 years, we've seen two different quarterbacks run this show. The last, 14, however long Aaron was there, it's been the Aaron Rodgers show in Green Bay. A lot of success, and we know what it looks like, but this year it's going to be completely different. So just very interesting team to watch. And, of course, we're going to have our varying opinions on that team. But to circle it back and cap off the NFC North, I have, and what looks like all of us have, Detroit, the Lions finishing first, which, wow, how many of us would think that was going to be said a few years ago? Like, ever since the Dan Campbell hire, this team has been on an upward trajectory. We talked about Chicago's momentum with Justin Fields' play. Well, outside of just the player, Detroit's whole team has momentum off of the way they ended last year. They absolutely caught fire. They rallied around Jared Goff as a starter and a leader of this offense. They rallied around Dan Campbell and his philosophies and what he was trying to build in that organization. And it led to some success at the end of the year. I think they carry that onto this year. They win this NFC division pretty comfortably, maybe I'd say 2 games, maybe 3, depending how they play against the other top heavyweights in the conference. But a very exciting team to watch. They had probably the most interesting draft out of all 32 teams in the league. People say they reached on their first few, but maybe they just see the player, they see the fit, and they went and got their guy. You can argue that on both cases. One with Jahmyr Gibbs that high in the first round. Obviously, taking a back in the first round at any time is always kind of a question mark. But you pair him and his pass catching ability with David Montgomery, who they brought in from Chicago as this running back tandem. That's pretty strong and should strike some fear behind a very solid offensive line. And then they went out and drafted Jack Campbell, the linebacker out of Iowa, who just seems like a mastermind at the linebacker position. He led all of the NCAA in linebackers in coverage grade, nearly 93 coverage grade among linebackers. And then you bring in the free agent acquisitions such as Cam Sutton. He forced a career high 14 incompletions last year. The moves they made to supplement an already good, sound roster in free agency and the draft, albeit you can say it's a reach or whatever, they found their guys. They saw positions of need and what they wanted to add to what they built, which I think every player in that locker room believes in what they built, and they added to that. So I see that momentum they had at the end of last year continuing on behind Dan Campbell. It's just a fun team to watch, fun team to root for, and I'm excited to watch some Detroit Lions football next year.
Yeah, I'm with you, Chase. I have Detroit at 1. I do think it's crazy to say that. Like you said, man, Detroit finally going to the playoffs, potentially. Like, man, this is everybody's second favorite team, right? Detroit.
Everybody loves Dan Campbell, bro.
Yeah, everybody does. And I think really the strength of this team, though, is the offensive line. Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow, and Penei Sewell. I mean, that's a woof. It's nice. It's very good. And Jared Goff, he executed awesome last year. And I think a lot of the reason was their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, just scheming things up brilliantly. I think Jahmyr Gibbs does add a layer to this offense that was not there last year. And I think he has the potential to be what DeAndre Swift was not for them, and be more consistent and stay available. That's the key for him, being a smaller back. And we've seen the issues some of these smaller backs have in the league. So But I do think having a solid number 2 guy in David Montgomery to kind of take some of the, inside between the tackle reps and kind of, take some off of his plate, I think is a good thing. The receiver room is also pretty stout with Amon-Ra St. Brown. When Jameson Williams comes back, I think he's a good player. Very, very fast, but he has yet to prove anything, I think, in the NFL level. But he was my number 1 receiver coming out that year. Not so sure about that anymore, but I do think he has plenty of talent. It's just about putting on display and being available because, he's been suspended, he's been hurt, and he's suspended again. So it's kind of a question mark there, but the talent is certainly there. But outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Martin Jameson Williams, you kind of have some question marks here with Marvin Jones being as old as he is. Josh Reynolds just kind of being a okay depth piece at this point. Khalif Raymond kind of being a move piece, not very skilled as a route runner, but someone toss some jet sweeps to, throw some screens to, kind of get him out in open space, see what he can do. But outside of that, it's not a whole lot. But I do think Sam Laporte is in for a big year, man. I think he kind of was overlooked a little bit in the draft process in favor of guys like Michael Mayer, but I think he is going to be better than Michael Mayer. I think he's got some yak ability, and I think he's a Dan Campbell guy for sure. I think he's going to love some Sam Laporta. Very physical, good athlete, got some speed to him. I think he's going to be an integral part of this offense in year 1 for a tight end. That's normally unheard of, but I believe in the kid. I really do. And I think Ben Johnson's going to get him football. So we'll see what that looks like. I do think there's still some questions here on the defensive side of the ball, particularly up front outside of Aiden Hutchinson. They got Adam McNeil, Isaiah Buggs, and Charles Harris. It's not very good. I can't believe Charles Harris is starting for them. But on the second level, they drafted Jack Campbell, who's going to be a stud, man. I do think they probably should have chose which one they wanted to take. I don't think it's just a good team building decision to take a running back and a linebacker in the first round. But they did it. They're good players. They're going to be effective, I think, immediately. So hats off to them. They went and got their guys. So we'll see what it looks like. It's not what I would have done, but it's what has happened. And like Chase said, Cameron Sutton was an excellent add here. They did trade Jeff Okudah, which might be a good thing at this point in time because he kind of maybe just needs a fresh start somewhere else because it wasn't clicking for him in Detroit. CJ Gardner-Johnson was also an excellent add, man. He's going to be a huge addition to the secondary, who's struggled last year pretty bad. So we'll see what they can do to kind of slow offenses down so they don't have to score so many points this year. But I think they're definitely the front runner of this division.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of what y'all said. I have Detroit at number 1. I'm not going to beat the drum too bad. Y'all both covered, pretty much everything you could probably really cover on the team. But I think Gibbs, I'm excited for him. I think, honestly, with the whole David Montgomery coming in too, I can see them sneak him out in the slot role just because of what the wide receiver room's kind of looking like. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy's seen 70-plus targets this year. And a lot of teams I've noticed when they do draft a running back with that first-round pick, they're going to make him be as much in the offense as they can just so the other teams around the league won't kind of do what everybody's doing right now. They wasted a first-round pick on this guy. He only did this. I can exceed them very quickly, get Gibbs in the offense. Then I ain't going to beat the drum too hard on their offensive line, but the offensive line's great. They did have some injuries last year. They finished a top 5 offensive line. I think, honestly, this offensive line was healthy all year. To me, this is as close to the Eagles' offensive line as you can get. This offensive line is dominant. They run the ball. You know they're going to run the ball. And then Jared Goff, hats off to the guy. That was Super Bowl, Rams, Jared Goff back somehow. I don't know how they went and got him. I used to see him, man, and you blitz the guy, he seen pressure, the game was over. Jared Goff, I ain't going to say unlocked him yet, but he's doing what they asked him to be, a general manager, get the ball, less turnovers. He's doing everything Dan Campbell wants him to do. And then I think, both the first-round picks, I like both of them. I was high on both of these guys coming in. I like both of them. if they weren't my top guy, they were definitely my second guy. So I think, I'm opposite with the whole they shouldn't have drafted both of these positions in the first round because I think it's just a part of their plan. This is what they need right now the most, so they went and got it. A lot of teams go, yeah, we need it, but we can wait to the second round. But then you have the talent drop off, and I just think the Lions see finally, after being what they've been over the last couple of years, decades, whatever you want to say, this is finally their chance to actually win the division. So why not go out and finally give their fans something to cheer for? And I think this is the year that I think they put it all together and win this division. This is their chance, their time, and I'm excited to watch this team play.
Yeah, I am too. Huge shout out because they probably got the steal of the draft in the second round with Brian Branch, safety, nickel, corner, hybrid out of Alabama. I think he's an excellent addition, and what they could do with him and C.J. Gardner-Johnson is going to be pretty cool to watch. But I'm going to set the stage for the NFC North. So last year, the Bengals finished first in the division with a 12-4 record, followed by Chase's Baltimore Ravens with a 10-7 record. Steelers finished third with 9-8. Browns last with a 7-10 record. So, Chase, you got it 4, man. I'm interested to see here.
Yeah, man. Often regarded as, I'm not trying to beef up my own team here, but I think league wide, this is often regarded as one of the stronger divisions in football. Mm-hmm. Just throughout their history, their short history, the Ravens have been a pretty good football team. The Steelers are what they are. They have some of the up there in world championships, and they continue as long as Mike Tomlin's been there. They somehow have a winning record, no matter what is on that team, what injuries happen, they win football games. The Browns are the Browns. They've kind of been the basement for a while, but you can't say that's not a talented roster. And now Cincinnati has turned things around with Joe Burrow. Up and down, very strong division. So my fourth place team, I could argue, is better than the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if I would pick them in a head-to-head, but they have talent to play with them, I would say. Even the Lions, who we all think should win the NFC North. I think this team can play with them. That said, I went with, my opinion, the weakest QB in the division, and that is Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Would think we all agree on this one. We'll see. Time will tell. And as a Ravens fan, obviously this is our biggest rival, has been since we've come into the league. Their long success in their franchise history is nothing to disrespect and to put down. But that said, roster is just lacking a lot for me. And I think as good as Mike Tomlin has been, I think this is the year they finally finish with a losing record. When you combine the roster itself, the talent of the division, you're playing 6 games against, in my mind, more talented teams, and then the talent of the rest of the AFC. Every other team in the AFC that are playoff contenders, I think, have a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett. So that steers me away from Pittsburgh being successful this year. That said, the defensive side of the ball is a very strong unit still. They allowed the 12th fewest touchdowns last year. Or no, they threw for the 12th fewest with 12. So, whether it was Mitch or Kenny, they weren't getting the ball in the end zone. And then they threw 14 interceptions. So they threw more than they got in the end zone. And their 76.8 QBR was 30th among 32 teams. So that side of the ball worries me. Defensively, though, moving on to that, they rebuilt the corner room with Patrick Peterson and the drafting of Joey Porter Jr., who makes us all feel old as he's now in the NFL. Yeah, so that side of the ball is revamped in the secondary, and then I think, for my money, maybe the best pass rusher, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, T.J. Watt. Group them together. I like all three of those guys. They're elite of elite, but T.J. Watt is tied for the most sacks in the season. He said on the Pat McAfee show he plans on setting the record this year. He's that dynamic that he can go out and do just that. That said, even if he goes out and does just that, I think the other side of the ball is going to be the problem for Pittsburgh. Nothing to knock on their defense. They've got talent all over the place on that side of the ball. But as I said, weakest QB of the division, weak side of that. weak side of the ball on offense. That's what led me to their fourth place finish in the North this year.
Yeah, that's completely fair, Chase. I also have Pittsburgh at 4, and I'm right there with you. I think a lot of the reason is going to be this offense and Kenny Pickett. I go up and down the roster. I'm not a fan of Kenny Pickett. Not a fan of their backup, Mitch Trubisky. I'm really not a fan of Najee Harris, and I think Jalen Warrens might be a better back than Najee Harris. And that was a former first-round pick, and that's a key example why you don't take backs in the first round. Not only do they not last very long, it's pretty high chance they can bust. And this is a good example of that. Do I think Najee's a bad player? No, but I do think he would have been a better player in a different system where they had an offensive line that could maybe open up some lanes a little bit more because he's slow. And then on the receiver room, Deontay Johnson's a solid receiver. I do think he's a receiver 2 type, though. I don't think he's quite dominant, and I think they're hoping that George Pickens becomes that for him. And I've watched George Pickens for a long time now, and basically, if you look at his highlight reel, it's a contested catch on somebody's head, just freaking mossing them and ripping the ball out their hands. Like, the dude has got phenomenal ability to catch football and track down the field and just win these battles up in the air. He does it. It seems like every other week you see a George Pickens highlight of a ridiculous catch, but there's something to be said here about George Pickens and his lack of production over his career, not just in the NFL, but while he was in college. Something he's always struggled to do is get open, and he doesn't get open. He shared the same average yards of separation as A.J. Green did last year, and not much better than Devontae Parker. And indeed, he's not. I just don't think he's good, man. I think he's solid at what he does. If you want Devontae Parker on your team, you probably want George Pickens on your team because that's the kind of player he is. And then Allen Robinson's a receiver 3, man. Golly. This offense is going to struggle. Pat Freiermuth is an excellent tight end, though. I will say that. And the drafting of Broderick Jones was an excellent move to kind of shore up this offensive line that has been struggling in recent memory, especially if you're trying to make the most out of your previous investment in Najee Harris. You need to get this offensive line better. And there's still some holes here. They did bring in Isaac Seumalo, who's a good left guard. And they do have – that's pretty much it on the offensive line. Defensively.
Goodness.
Defensively, they did bring in Larry Ogunjobi, who is a solid piece in the 3-4 defense. Cameron Hayward is a freaking stud, man. TJ Watt, Chase talked about him. I'm not going to say anything else there. And then their secondary, people can say what they want here, but I'm just quite mid. Patrick is not that impressed. Minka Fitzpatrick's excellent, dude. One of the best safeties in the NFL. But outside of that, Levi Wallace, Peterson is quite old. And Joey Porter, he's yet to be seen, but that was probably my least favorite top-tier corner coming out. I liked Devon Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez a lot more, and I liked Deontay Banks more. So we'll see. That's the one corner I have my questions about. He's supposed to be a big physical press corner. We'll see about that, especially in this division, having to go up against guys like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and man, we'll see. But there is a huge glaring weakness to this defense, and that's the second level, man. They tried to switch it up from, I think they had Miles Jack and Devin Bush last year starting at linebacker, and that was a train wreck. And I think it's going to be just that of a train wreck this year with Cole Holcomb, who's a limited player, and then you have an even more limited player, Landon Roberts, and I know all about him. That's one of the worst coverage linebackers in the NFL. He's a plug for sure. He can tackle he's a plug between the tackles, but he didn't offer a whole lot more than that. And there's other guys out there that are better run stuffers than he is. They do have Quan Alexander. They brought in to kind of be a backup to what they have there in Landon Roberts and Cole Holcomb. And they just signed Desmond King. I do think he's probably going to be at least very valuable depth, but he might fight for a starting spot here, at least over Levi Wallace. I would want to think that Patrick Peterson wins a starting job, but it's kind of hard to tell at this point in time. But yeah, man, I don't care for Pittsburgh roster, especially in comparison to the rest of the AFC.
Go ahead.
Woo, Chase, I love you, man.
Don't do that to me, man. Don't do Are you a
Number
smart
four.
man?
Number 4, man. I thought hard, Chase. I did, man. I kept thinking about Greg Roman, new offensive coordinator coming, Lamar Jackson. I kept thinking. And number 4, I put the Baltimore Ravens because of Tom.
Chase has left the studio.
Yeah, goodness.
It was good pod, guys.
Oh, Lord. I have good reasoning, man. I have good reasoning. So, look, Tom Monken is the new offensive coordinator. Yes, Tom Monken has had success at Georgia. 2 national championships. But he's also been in the NFL before. He was in Jacksonville. He left the league, came back to the league, left the league, went to Georgia, found success, and now decided to come back to the league. So the only success he's actually had with his quote-unquote offense is at Georgia. So now you're bringing this to a team with a OBJ, Zay Flowers, and if you have any other healthy wide receivers. So to me, you have a J.K. Dobbins, if he's there. You just released I believe Gus Edwards got released.
No, he's still there.
He's still there, but still. I just think with the weapons you have, the offense that you want to run, we've seen Lamar Jackson win an MVP in Greg Roman's offense. Then when they did say they wanted to pass the ball more, all we seen out of Greg Roman's offense with that being in place was Lamar throwing more picks. And then, I thought about Lamar and how we hadn't seen Lamar play a full season since his MVP year, so I wouldn't want to put all my coins in that basket either. So then you're looking at the backup quarterbacks, which they have, which are kind of a Greg Roman quarterbacks. They're not going to run this offense any better. So if you bring those guys in, so all I see out of this offense, if you have an OBJ, which I think will go down this season, so you're having a lot of I wouldn't even say mid, not a good group of wide receivers. So I think it's just the health in Baltimore is my big concern. The defense, I have no questions about what's going to go on over there except for the cornerback room. The cornerback room is terrible. You have one good corner, and then after that, it's a bunch of young guys. So I just can't get behind the whole Baltimore. J.K. Dobbins, week 1's coming, and I don't even know if he's going to play yet. I hadn't heard if he's playing or not. So my big thing is just Lamar Jackson, the new offense. I just don't think it's going to work. And that's why I can't get behind the Baltimore is going to even win this division just because there's another team that's a clear-cut winner in this division. And then I expect the other teams to improve. And if Baltimore's going to this new offense, I just don't see how they're going to turn it and make it click in year 1. And Lamar hadn't played in how long? A full season. He's played just the full seasons where I can't get behind the Baltimore Ravens, and Lamar passing more is just not what I want to see. And if I'm a Baltimore fan, I guess maybe y'all want him to pass more, but I'd rather go back to seeing running MVP Lamar than passing Lamar.
Okay. Well,
all right. That was a hot take.
August 30th, 7:24 p.m. Chase Owens and Christian Mills' friendship officially ended. It was a great run, buddy. I love you, man.
That's fine. I think week, what is it? I believe it's week 13 in LA. Justin Herbert will be dotting up the sorry corners on the Baltimore Ravens.
Man.
So, yeah. It's not the defense, man. It's the offense I just cannot get behind. And Tom Monken has finally had success in a college offense, in a college world, with 5-star everywhere in Georgia, and now he's going to Baltimore.
I'm speechless, man. I can't wait to see what you say about Pittsburgh. What?
He said a lot of mid it blows my mind because, I think there's a lot of talent, but, you
have Rock Yun-Sin at corner, but he has never lived up to what he was drafted to be, and that's why the Colts kind of let him go.
Yeah.
He's CB2.
Yeah.
He's CB1 right now. Somebody's hurt.
Well, It sounds like your concern is with really the offense being new
Offense. I mean,
and the offense staying healthy.
yeah.
What up, Siri?
I mean,
Which is fair. I see. That's the hottest take we've had in this pod, which is
I'm
awesome.
just saying, bro. It's just your number one back is J.K. Dobbins, which we hadn't seen at all. Hadn't heard nothing from him. Don't know if he's even playing at this point. And then, I mean, y'all are supposed to be the team that running backs go to get paid. And now y'all are going away from that and becoming a passing offense with Lamar Jackson. Which, when he's getting told to pass more, its interception percentage is going up.
Okay.
And that's Greg Roman. Look at the beginning of when he was with Greg Roman. They told us he was going to pass more. The interception percentage went up.
Well,
and with the weapons there,
I'll say that.
I still love you, Christian. I'm not gonna hold that against you.
I appreciate it, man.
I mean,
shooters got to shoot.
Yeah, shooters got to shoot, man. That is a take and a half for sure. And I will get to why I disagree in due time. Right now, I'm gonna move along. I had Pittsburgh as my fourth ranked team. Third, I have Cleveland, and they an interesting offseason, really a new direction. I know Deshaun played last year, but that was a train wreck. He looked terrible. And if this franchise wants to stop being the laughingstock of the AFC North, they need Deshaun Watson to be who they paid him to be. And other than that, they have the talent on both sides of the ball. They brought in Dalvin Tomlinson to beef up the interior D line, which was much needed because they allowed so many yards per carry last year. And he had a career high 33 pressures last year with the Vikings. So good move on that front. They bring in Zadarius Smith, who's been an acclaimed pass rusher for a few years now, albeit he is aging now. So we'll see what that partnership with Myles Garrett, who's one of the other great pass rushers in this league, how that works out on that side of the ball. That I'm not too worried about, but the offense, bringing in Elijah Moore, it really all banks on Deshaun just bouncing back, man. They have established regimen in coaching. They have established backs and stars in other positions that you can get behind. For me, I'm struggling to get behind Deshaun bouncing back. By no means I think he lost talent or whatever. He's still a very talented quarterback and a heck of a football player. I've seen it for a many number of years now. That said, I don't think he's elevating this team to potential AFC title contenders. I think they're playoff contenders, can flirt with a wild card, but just a few other areas leave me with a question mark, and Deshaun just proving us that last year was kind of a fluke is still feels like a question mark to me. For that reason, I've got him at 3.
All right. So, you guys know who Matt Canada is? You guys know who Matt Canada is?
I do.
I know who that is.
If Todd Monken is worse than him, that would be saying something because he's awful. I mean,
I hear you,
probably
man.
the worst OC in the NFL right now. But all right, anyway,
yeah, get us on track.
Cleveland, I got Cleveland here. I think you look at this roster up and down, it's filled. They're in win now mode. They paid Sean Watson like a ridiculous amount of money, and it's ultimately, I think, going to come down to what Deshaun Watson is for this football team is going to determine how far they can go because, yes, they have a good roster, but so does so many teams in the AFC. And you're really going to need a difference maker here. And, yes, you have Nick Chubb. You got this running game. You got Amari Cooper, who's a solid receiver in his own right. But Deshaun Watson no longer has his... The other thing I want to point out here, pregame ritual. He can't go to the massage parlor, then pull up to the game and be feeling good. Look, man. Look, he don't have a pregame regimen anymore. That might be why he's struggling. That's all I'm saying. And their receiver room is thin as all get out. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, who is not a proven asset by no means. Donovan Peoples-Jones, at best, is a depth player.
Yeah.
Receiver 4, kinda, would be an ideal role for him. So, David Bell, who I like coming out, but he's kind of a limited player. I think he's proven that. Cedric Tillman, rookie player, second round coming out, but I don't pick big physical wideout out of Tennessee. Complete question mark for me. Wasn't very high. I want to sell him out yet. David Njoku really turned it on last year when Jacoby Brissett was playing quarterback. I just have my questions here. The offensive line's pretty good. Jedrick Wills is okay. He's a solid left tackle. Wyatt Teller, Joel Benito. I mean, Jack Conklin, DeJuan Jones, who had a freaking awesome preseason, man. I know everyone's seen the graphics on social media. I think they'll be able to run football here. And like I said, ultimately, I think it's going to come down to what Deshaun Watson is this year. And I do think they got lucky with their rookie quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I think that was an awesome pickup. And honestly, might see some playing time this year. Defensively, you got guys. You really do. You got guys. Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith is a heck of a 1-2 combo rushing the passer. I'm still concerned about the interior of this defense. I think they're going to struggle stopping the run. I think they're going to struggle having any sort of pressure from the interior. Dalvin Tomlinson just got cut or not re-signed last year, and I just think he's aging. I don't think he is what he was. And then in the secondary, Denzel Ward, I'm sure he'll bounce back. He's one of the best corners in the league, but he definitely had a down year last year. He wasn't even mentioned on our top 10 corner list. Grant Delpit, also kind of a young player that has yet to really find his way in the NFL. And Greg Newsome, also another young player who showed some promise, but I don't think is necessarily a sure thing at this point in time. That being said, they're going to be able to get after the passer. They got a decent second level here. I do like Jeremiah Oskoromora. And they got a plug in Anthony Walker to kind of help stop the run, which was a good pickup in my opinion. But they don't have enough here for me to put them over Cincinnati or Baltimore. That's just my opinion. We'll see how the season shakes out. Ultimately, I think they fall short because Deshaun Watson isn't what he was, and we've seen this before with great players who took time off and came back and just weren't the same. You guys heard Michael Vick? He was phenomenal. Came back, showed glimpses, but he ultimately wasn't what he was. And Deshaun Watson's really got to prove that to me because he was just awful last year. I mean, there's no way around it. And that says something because I was quite big on Deshaun Watson when he was in Houston. So we'll see. I'm just not very high on this roster in general.
At number 3, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Steelers, they did what they really needed to do to this team. I like the Cole Holcomb pickup. I mean, they kind of had Devin Bush and the linebackers Brian named that just hadn't been what they wanted. I think this guy can actually be kind of what they want. And then they went and got, like Brian said, Landon Roberts, Quan Alexander. And then they went and got Patrick Peterson, which I think fits what they're going to try to be and what they've always been in the past. And then I just think this is, in the draft, they went and got Joey Porter Jr. I think he's a great player. I think he will show signs this year. I think he'll definitely get some playing time. I don't think they'll just throw him out week 1, but he will definitely be on the field in some of their sets. They got a steal in the draft in Darnell Washington, a great blocking tight end, and this dude is a giant. I think they stole him in the 3rd round. I think they will give him somehow in the mix 2 tight end sets with their other great tight end. And then my big thing on why I think Pittsburgh will be definitely 3rd this year is TJ Watt stays healthy. Last year when he was on the field, they were 8-2. After he got hurt, they went 1-6. So I think a lot plays on TJ Watt with this team. I think he kind of is their defense, and when he's not out there, I think the defense kind of, in a way, not get lost, but just that's their guys, and he's getting to the quarterback. Then after him, you have, a Cam Hayward, older guys that just, I ain't going to say can't get to the quarterback, but they're bringing that much havoc like a TJ Watt is. I think if he does play all year, I can honestly see him break the sack record. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he's the one that holds it now anyway, so why not go out and go get it again? Kenny Pickett, I do see improvement this year out of Kenny Pickett. I think this will be a growth year, a year two. Normally we see out of these quarterbacks, year one is a learning experience. Year two, he knows this is his team. He has the keys. There's no more Mitch starting out. So I think they're going to do more of maybe what he likes in this offense. And then I can see Johnson and George Pickens have a bigger step this year than what maybe last year was, just because they're actually going to have one quarterback for the whole year in Kenny Pickett. And I can see maybe a bounce back out of Najee Harris. I think this can maybe be his year that he knows his contract is coming up here shortly. So I just see maybe with them passing the ball more, maybe that will help Najee Harris and get him into the passing game. But I just think they went and really added what they lost. They added back to this team with the free agency and definitely the draft. And I just think their defense could easily be a top 10 unit if they're all healthy. And I just think with this division, it's really defenses are going to have to really be what shakes it up, because these offenses are maybe all these offenses will be good. But I just think the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin's going to always have a winning record. I'm not going to bet against that at this point, because last year you would think they were going to have their losing record, and Mike Tomlin is a winning coach. I don't care who he has out there. Some way, somehow, he will have a positive record for the end of the year. And with that being said, they will have to finish third in this division.
Hey, Christian, real quick. Are
What's
you at
up,
all
man?
concerned about Kenny Pickett's availability this year? Or is that
His
just a Tua
availability?
thing? Or
He's never had injuries like the other quarterbacks have that you're about to name.
no, he had 2 concussions last year. Same amount
Okay,
Tua had.
that's a concussion. Yeah, but he wasn't throwing up gang signs while he was on the field. He just went off to
I'm
the
not
sideline.
concerned about optics. They missed about the same amount of games.
I hear you, but I
Due to
just
injury.
I hear you, but I just believe more in Kenny Pickett's health, definitely over Tua's health. To college-wise, Kenny Pickett didn't have no injuries, and Tua did.
Yeah. Well, he never touched the play Tua put out there either. So
I hear you, but at Pitt, he was like, him and a wide receiver was the only star on that team, and they almost won the ACC.
the ACC.
Okay.
We're talking about natties, okay? Natties and stuff like that.
Yep.
Over here.
I hear you. Well, them natties ain't helping Tua right now when he's in the middle of the field throwing up gang signs.
Well, he led the league in passer rating. Now let's see if Kenny Pickett can do that.
Well, that's good for him, but
I'm glad he won the starting job from Mitch Trubisky, though.
I hear you. If Kenny Pickett does make it to the playoffs this year and start, him and Tua be in the playoffs for, the same amount of games.
Hey, I would be shocked if Kenny Pickett finishes in the top half of QBR this year. I'll say that. Not any fault of him. I think he's a fine player, but I think the offense is severely lacking. And we've touched on that. I see your concerns with Baltimore, and it's still mind-boggling to me because as much respect as I have for Mike Tomlin and the defensive side of the ball, I just think the talent is pretty substantial, especially at the QB position. And it sounds to me as if you're banking on Lamar missing time, which is fair. He hasn't finished the last 2 regular seasons. And for that reason, as we move to the second place team, I have Cincy and Baltimore left. I really, really wrestled back and forth with this. I'm not going to deny what the team that Cincy has built behind Joe Burrow and the roster they have right now. Not going to deny that we're running a new offense, a new system. Got some moving pieces. The cornerback room's all question marks there. And with both of you guys picking your teams to finish first in the division, it really inspired me. I wanted to pull the trigger. Ultimately, there's a reason that I could not. I have Baltimore finishing second. And before any Ravens fans come at me and tell me I'm not a true fan and I don't believe in this team, this, that, the other, there's some reasons, and the headliner for me is Marlon Humphrey. He's already suffered a foot injury. His status for week 1 seems to be high question, probably not playing. And I say if he misses more than week 3, week 4 of game action, that's enough to let Cincinnati get past us. And the cornerback room after Marlon Humphrey, I said it in our Ravens breakdown pod. Please go back, listen. We've hammered a lot of questions about this team in that pod, as we have with each of our favorite teams.
Yep.
But I voiced in that podcast that I was very, very heavily concerned with this cornerback room after Marlon Humphrey. Him going down was the least, the player we could least afford to go down outside of Lamar Jackson. So missing any time, that's enough to put Cincy over us, in my opinion. And it's going to hurt us. It is. That said, I think if we finish the year healthy, this has all the components to win multiple playoff games. Lamar Jackson finally got paid. That cloud is gone. The offense, he has weapons he has never, ever worked with, albeit a new OC. Whether you hated Greg Roman, you liked him. He had a new, never seen before, historic rushing attack. That is out the window. You can't be that one-dimensional and win playoff football games.
Yep.
We are moving forward. You may not like Lamar passing the ball more, but it is not the worst solution in this style he's going to be passing in, because he's done it before. He did it at Louisville with no weapons. And it's going to be that style offense. Todd Monken will scheme up ways to get, which we finally have, playmakers, the football. Zay Flowers, buy your Zay Flowers stock now. Him in the open field will make plays. Lamar does not have to go Superman, take off when Mark Andrews isn't open anymore. Get Zay Flowers, get OBJ, who is more than another year removed from surgery. Get Bateman, who is back on the field and shown flashes when he is. Get those guys the football. They will make plays. The offense has been revamped, receiver room especially, and it's going to be different, but it's still going to be dynamic. I saw Lamar Jackson win MVP with Willie Snead as his wide receiver one. I will hammer it home again and again and again, because that was their wide receiver room. Nelson Aguilar would have been wide receiver one on that team. He is wide receiver 4, maybe 5, depending on what you think of Devin Duvernay. It's completely revamped. The weapons are different, and Lamar's got to stay healthy. He has no excuses. He's gotten paid. The offensive line should be another strong unit once again. John Simpson will be the new left guard, but other than that, it's the same unit. It's been a strong one for a long time. He has no excuses to not put up points, which I've seen him do with far less. So if he's on the field, I believe in points being put up. Getting to the other side of the ball, I'm going to try to speed this up. We've hammered it, this team a lot in our previous podcast, but there's talent at each level. The pass rush and the corner rooms are probably the weakest, but I think the safety combination is maybe the strongest in the NFL, and Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton, just a solid star in both positions back there. Roquan Smith, one up, maybe behind Fred Warner as the best inside linebacker. And then you get names of guys you haven't heard of yet on this D-line that stuff the run and just take bodies, which is what Mike McDonald wants them to do. And like a Travis Jones, look for him to have a big breakout sophomore year. Those guys eat bodies and allow the Ojabu, the Oways, the Clowney, who was just brought in. These are your pass rushers to win one-on-ones, make plays happen, which Baltimore's defense has been known since they come in this league to make plays happen. They continually do it. It's been rare I've seen a bad Baltimore defense, and the worst one I saw, well, the worst one that was good enough to make the playoffs, won a Super Bowl behind Joe Flacco. I think Lamar is better than Joe Flacco. I think this defense is better than that time now. So it's good enough recipe to equal multiple playoff wins, a solid team. But albeit, I'm going to let the bias not take over and still pick them behind Cincinnati in this division.
Gotcha. So I'm with you, Chase. I got Baltimore at 2. And a lot of what you said, I definitely agree with. I think a lot of this offense is a little bit of a question mark, but I think they have players in critical positions that are elite talents, and there is quite the connection already on this roster with Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. that's the receiver one, and that's where the offense is still going to be funneled through. We saw all the success that Todd Monken had with tight ends at Georgia. I definitely think he's going to get not only Mark Andrews involved, but Isaiah Likely, who is also a player that I think is on the verge of breaking out this year. Potentially, if some of these guys in the receiver room get hurt, I don't think they're going to stop running 12 personnel. And if they're going to keep running 12 personnel, only 2 of these receivers are going to be out there. And if you got Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers lining up at receiver, I'm completely fine with that. And then you got more depth this year in case Rashad Bateman does go down. Slide in Nelson Aguilar. So they got competent receivers beyond their 1 and 2 so that this passing game can have the potential to take off. It's going to be about consistency for this offense. It's going to be about Lamar Jackson still making plays happen with his legs. That cannot stop happening for this offense to work. It's just about being a little bit more consistent and having weapons on the outside that can win their one-on-ones. This has not been happening. This has not been an element of this offense at all, and it's not because of Lamar Jackson more so than is their receivers that they've had in recent memory. And I'll be the first to say, I'm a little bit lower in Lamar Jackson than a lot of other guys are, and it's because his ability to pass has not been consistent to the level that you want to see at a quarterback. And yes, you can blame the weapons. And I'm, completely okay with that sentiment. It just has to happen. But now we finally got the weapons in here to see what Lamar's got, and the offensive coordinator that's not going to just beat the rock and just continually run the football and run Lamar into the ground. The last couple seasons, Lamar has been overutilized, like I talked about Josh Allen on the AFC East pod. Just the offense ran so much through him that by the end of the year, the dude's just worn out, man, broke down a little bit. And if they've got guys in here now that take some off Lamar's plate, J.K. Dobbins, something I want to talk about here. Last year he was coming off an ACL injury and struggled to really get back. He might have came back a little too early. And like we've talked about on other pods, running backs particularly take a minute to get back to what they were. And J.K. Dobbins needed a year, it looked like to me, based on what he was his rookie season, based on what he was in college. He was not the same player last year. And Gus Edwards is a fine backup. So I think with that, combined with their offensive line being sturdy, Tyler Linderbaum, Ronnie Staley on left tackle, they got a pretty good offensive line in front of them. Morgan Moses has always been a solid swing tackle, but they also got Daniel Falele, who is a young player they drafted in recent memory. And so about this offense, one of these receivers, man, is going to do good. Between Rashad Bateman, who has plenty of potential in his own right, or Zay Flowers, one of these guys, in my opinion, is going to step up and be the receiver 1 for this team. So do I think the offense is better than Cincinnati? I do not. I think Cincinnati's got a better offense. And I do think Baltimore is going to kind of have to go through a trial and error phase on offense this season with this new offense. Lamar Jackson kind of playing a new role. So that can kind of go either way. There's some variance there. But I think it's a necessary move for Baltimore going forward. If they want to win a Super Bowl, they got to have Lamar winning as a passer as he starts to age and takes him off his plate so that he can be available in the playoffs. This is critical. They needed to do this. They cannot continue to run the rock like they have. It's not going to work. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Marlon Humphrey, like you guys talked about, a little banged up. It doesn't look like it's going to be a season-ending thing. He's going to come back at some point. I don't know when, but he is critical for this offense, and that is no doubt. He definitely is. But they do have an excellent duo here in the safety room with Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams that are going to make stuff happen. Brock Ya-Sin is a decent corner, so that it's not like they're completely bare bone in the corner room, but dang, they need Marlon Humphrey pretty bad. I think, honestly, if they're serious about competing, they need to add something to this cornerback room, whether that's through trade, whether that's through free agency, something. I don't think they can roll with this without Marlon Humphrey. And I did want to mention a couple other players here. You would like to think one of these edge rushers does break out. Between David Ajabo and Odafe Oweh, one of these guys has to explode onto the scene, in my opinion. They got all the talent, early draft picks. They need this to happen. They did bring in Jadeveon Clowney I missed that. Saw the news recently, but that's, if that's your third edge rusher, that's not a bad thing. I'm sure he'll get some run this year, though, at some point in time. And then they got one of the best second levels in the game with Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. I mean, their defense, in my eyes, has enough talent to where they can win games with their defense, and their offense has enough talent they can win games with their offense. So I think, in general, they're just a more well-rounded roster with more high-end talent than the Browns and the Steelers. So that combined with the coaching of John Harbaugh, I think this team is just ultimately more well-rounded than the other two teams. And like we had talked about with Cleveland, ultimately it's going to come down to Lamar Jackson's availability and what he does this season. And that also ties into the offensive coordinator and all of that. But I am fairly confident they're going to figure it out. And ultimately, I do view this team as a wild card team, not necessarily a team that's going to win multiple playoff games. But I can be proven wrong. A lot of it has to do with the question marks on the offensive side of the ball with the new scheme and Lamar Jackson trying to throw the football a little bit more. We'll see what that looks like, but I definitely like them more than Pittsburgh and Cleveland.
Goodness. All right, then. At number 2, I have the Cleveland Browns. I just think we cannot see what we saw out of Deshaun this year. I just would like to bet that that's not going to happen. This is the best offense, I think, personally, that Deshaun's ever been a part of. That you got to think the best offense in Houston was DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, and then Miller at halfback. So I just think Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, David Njoku, that is the best offense he's ever been a part of since he's been in the league. So I can see this year actually having a full offseason, not coming in after Jacoby Brissett. I understand, yes, he did play good. People are trying to give Jacoby Brissett his praise, but people are also forgetting Jacoby Brissett did go to Washington and got beat out by Sam Howell. So, I mean, how much of a drop-off was the Deshaun? I understand, but I just see Deshaun definitely playing better than what they got out of just Jacoby Brissett last year. He wasn't amazing by any means last year, but he was good enough to let them win. And I can see Deshaun definitely reach that this year. And I just think with Nick Chubb, worst case scenario, I mean, we've seen it with Baker. If they have to go that route, Nick Chubb will carry this team until Deshaun Watson can figure it out. And I think the defense this year with adding Smith, and then you have Garrett on the other side. I mean, you're going to have to double team Garrett, and then that leaves Smith one-on-one. I understand he is getting older, but I can see this team getting to the quarterback. And then last year, the corner room was a problem. They did go and get Thornhill at safety, great safety. They needed to upgrade from John Johnson. So I think that was a great move for them to go get a young star safety. I mean, he doesn't get a lot of love because, yes, he was with the Chiefs. He gets outshined by a lot of defensive pieces over there. But Thornhill's a great add to this team, a young safety. I think that helps his defense a lot. And I just think with just this offensive line, the defensive line, and I understand the linebackers are, I guess, all right, you can say, but I just think a full offseason, I'm just really banking on Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to say being back in the Houston form because I just don't think that's going to happen right out the gate, but I expect Deshaun Watson to come back this year and have a big year to now he does not have the whole court cases, people in his ear, his jersey's actually being worn in the stadium, and he's going to see that and know that, hey, this is my team. They paid me. It's time to show the world what I was. And I just really see just the roster's there. I mean, they only lost Kareem Hunt and Clowney. Other than that, they kept everything that was really there already. So I think they're in win-now mode. I mean, they definitely showed they were in win-now mode when they paid Deshaun Watson that contract.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, this division, arguably one of the best in football. Deshaun, so vital to Cleveland's success. They, as you said, retained so much of what they had last year, and they should be better if Deshaun is better because they have the pieces around him to do it. But something we all are going to agree on is Cincy finishing first for another year. Like I said, I wrestled. I wanted to let the bias in me inspire me to pick Baltimore over Cincy, but just reworking this Baltimore's offense versus Cincinnati going into another year with this foundation of what they built. it's hard to kind of put us over them right now. We have to win those head to heads, which we did last year, but one of them. But Cincy's still very strong, man. I mean, Joe Burrow has established himself as that guy. Probably as QB driven as this league is, I would have to think one magical year he can put it all together and win an MVP. He's that good. I know Patrick Mahomes is who he is, and he can win it at any year pretty much. But Joe Burrow is that good as well. And when you have weapons like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, that's just nightmarish for opposing defenses. I would like to see Cincy's offense get a little more consistent in the run game. Say what you will about Joe Mixon, they didn't really they ran in volume, but they didn't do it effectively. And when they did, they averaged 3.8 yards per carry, which was 29th in the league. So they did it to establish it, but that was really more of a pitcher who doesn't want to use his off speed. Like, he'll throw it to show you he's got it, but they had no intention of using it. They want Joe Burrow to take over and lead this offense. So if they establish and be more comfortable with a stronger run game, that makes offense that much more scary. The defense, they did lose Jesse Bates, which is a huge hit for them. We talked about him on the South preview with him going to Atlanta and how highly we think of him. But other than that, the defense should be strong again. They did sign Orlando Brown for the line, and then they drafted Miles Murphy for the defensive side of the ball to get after the passer. So a few more question marks on that side of the ball, but still very strong. The secondary's been underrated for a while. Just a great roster. I think the Bengals, Bills, and Chiefs have established themselves as the pinnacle of the AFC. Those are the three top dogs. And we're all hopeful our teams can break through and compete with those three. You're going to have to beat them to make a deep playoff run. But, yeah, I think that's what it's going to take. As long as Joe Burrow is healthy, they will be in the playoffs.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I agree with you, and it does come down to Joe Burrow's health, and it's kind of the unspoken truth about Joe Burrow. He has had some injury problems a little bit here and there. It's popped up in his career, although he's a great quarterback. He did suffer a little scare in preseason. His rookie year, his knee, I don't remember exactly what it was. I know it's some torn ligaments. I don't think it was just an ACL. I think it was a little bit more than that. But great player nonetheless. They have been attempting aggressively to upgrade this offensive line, and I think they tried. I think they did make it better. They did bring in Orlando Brown, and they moved Jonah Williams over to the right side. They do have Loel Collins, who's a massive free agency flop, and Cordell Volson, a young player, Ted Karras, a journeyman center, Alex Kappa, solid right guard. But ideally, what this team is going to be on offense. It's going to be Joe Burrow. Dyson on defense is throwing the ball to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and newcomer Irv Smith, who I think will finally have his breakout season here in Cincinnati. I think he'll be a nice piece for that offense. But there's not much to say here. Everyone here, it's not much different than it has been in years past. It's going to be what we've seen. It's going to be an explosive offense led by Joe Burrow, and as long as he stays healthy, I see no reason it's going to change. Yeah. And on the defensive side of the ball, you got some players here. They did kind of have to reshape their secondary. Losing Jesse Bates is going to hurt, but they do have a young, early investment in Dax Hill, filling in for him at the free safety spot. And I think traditionally Cincinnati's done a good job in recent memory of drafting the replacement before that guy leaves, and this is an excellent example of that. In the cornerback room, I think they are kind of hurting here a little bit, but Janobi Awuzie, who's a good corner. But outside of that, Cam Taylor-Brent, he's all right. Mike Hilton's a good slot corner, so they got that going for him. And then a young player in DJ Turner. I think the corner room has a little bit to be desired, and it's top heavy, but it's solid. The second level, Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson, Akeem Davis-Gaither. Logan Wilson's a stud. No doubt about that. He's going to be a good player on the second level. And then on the defensive line, Sam Hubbard, when he's healthy, has been a pretty solid edge rusher. Trey Hendrickson, same deal. They got some depth here with Joseph Asai. Kind of a question mark what he's going to be. And then their first round investment, Miles Murphy out of Clemson. We'll see what he is. He's got all the tools to be good. So, in Bengals fans' minds, I'm sure they're hoping to see Miles Murphy this year and really take one of these edge rusher positions, which can definitely happen. But probably the best player in the defense, DJ Reader, is back this year, and that cannot be overstated. They need him for this defense to really be what it's designed to be. They need that interior pressure and then collapse the pocket. I don't see any reason this team can't go compete for a Super Bowl this year. They waxed Buffalo last year, and I don't think they got worse. I think it's really almost running it back from what they had in years past. I think if Joe Burrow stays healthy, this team should be considered a Super Bowl contender.
No, I agree with you. Like you said, Jesse Bates and Von Bell, both of them losses are big for this team. Then, of course, Brian's favorite corner, Eli Apple, is also a loss for this team. Goodness. They did add, like y'all said, Orlando Brown, safety Nick Scott, Irv Smith, and they got another corner, Sidney Jones from Seattle they traded for. So they're trying to do stuff, and like Brian hit it on, they got the speedy corner out of Michigan, DJ Turner. And then with the whole Von Bell being gone, they did draft strong safety Jordan Battle out of Alabama, who I expect to get thrown in. Good guy, plays for Alabama. You know he's going to be great. I mean, he shows some great things while he was at Bama. And I just think, like y'all said, just Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow on the defensive side of the ball.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, offensive side of the ball, you have like the Henry Ruggs and guys like that.
Oh, Jalen Waddle.
Wide receiver 2. Shout out Pat McAfee. But like I said, as long as Joe Burrow stay healthy, today was his first practice since the whole scare of the whole whatever was going on, the calf, the knee. So I just think this team goes as far as Joe Burrow goes. And I think as long as Jamar Chase and T. Higgins stay upright, I think this is going to be Cincinnati's division for a long time, as long as they can keep Joe Burrow and the 2 wide receivers as long as they can. But I just know it's going to be tough to see what they do these next 2-3 years, just because you have Joe Burrow still hadn't been signed. Jamar Chase is going to have to be signed. T. Higgins is going to have to be signed. And then kind of got now on the defensive side, if you want to keep any of those pieces, you're going to have to pay them too. So I just think at least this year, in the next 2 to 3 year range, I can see this being Cincinnati's division, unless someone just makes a move, a trade, or just a draft pick that just is a big hit. I just see Cincinnati and Joe Burrow. I mean, they went last year, AFC Championship game and a Super Bowl. I mean, that's what their pass is. So I kind of agree with Brian that this team is really still there, still ready to compete for a Super Bowl. It's just really who are they going to go up against, I guess, in the AFC Championship game.
Whoa.
No, I think there's no guarantee they get there. I think the
I don't think it's guaranteed.
No, I don't either. But I'm just saying that's where they were last year.
Yeah.
So
they've established themselves. There's no denying. As I said, Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, to me, have established themselves. They've been in AFC Championship games. They have great quarterbacks. They're the pinnacle of the AFC. That said, none of them, I think the Chiefs are the scariest, but none of them are unbeatable. Each team in the AFC with a competent and dynamic young QB, which all of ours have, and a few others, the Jets with the veteran Aaron Rodgers, I think all of those teams can on a good day, one football game, playoff bound, wherever, can beat any of those 3 teams. None of them unbeatable, but we agree. The Bengals should be the class. They've earned that right now. It's up to my Ravens to knock them down and just put things together and take them down. And get back on the 14-2 track that we were on. But Christian, I'm still hurt. I love you to death. I'm still hurt. I do want to ask you, this is such a long pod. We'll wrap this up here. But I do want to ask you have Baltimore finishing 4th. Do you see it as like a Lamar gets hurt, they pick top 5 in the draft type 4th? Or this division's strong. They could win 7 games by your mark and still finish 4th. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, like you're saying, they can win 7 or 8 games. I just think it's not really I'm hoping or praying for a Lamar injury. It's more so I just don't see Lamar working in this offense. I just don't. I understand it's what he ran in Louisville, but also when he was in the Louisville offense, he beat out another quarterback in this division for the Heisman and had more rushing yards and passing yards even then.
As he should have, because he was that good at Louisville.
No. But what I'm saying, though, is not the whole Heisman thing. That's another debate for another day. But he had more rushing yards and passing yards in this offense in the past, and y'all are trying to get away from him running.
I don't think that's gone. Brian touched on it. We have to still lean on that. Why would you not do something you're dynamic at? And Lamar's still a dynamic runner. So if you get away from that, that can spell trouble for us. And I don't think Monken is that naive to where he will get away from that. I think he's encouraging Lamar to unlock himself down the field. This team, they were 31st with only 33 passing plays over 20 yards. But only the Giants were worst, and we know those are probably two of the worst receiver rooms. That speaks to that.
Yep.
The Ravens addressed that, and now Monken is encouraging Lamar to unlock yourself, push the ball downfield, and add that to what the offense was scoring points last year with Lamar on the field. They were, and if you don't get away from what was successful there, and you only add. That's why I still believe. I know I picked him second, but I'm going to look forward to these Cincy Ravens matchups and pull for my team and not go into it expecting to lose, because I love our roster, and I think when we're healthy, I think we can beat Cincinnati. Is the Marlon Humphrey injury is what's throwing me down. Like I said, I fought with it, but
how many games?
Man, I respect it. I respect your call at fourth. This is a strong division, so I can't. I may not agree with you, but I can't knock you for it because the other teams are very strong in their own right.
How many games did Lamar miss last
year? He missed the final 6, I believe.
Sure.
By
and
2
they
games.
only lost
and they won,
the division by 2 games?
They won the game he went out and maybe one more. I had to look back how they finished, but they were first or second in the AFC when he went down. They were 8-3 or something like that when he went down. So, as long as he's been on the field, no matter who's been with him, I've seen him put up points. So new offense or not, I believe it'll continue.
I'm with you. And before we close the pod, I'm going to introduce our rankings from last year before we entered the season. In the NFC North, what do you guys think?
I know you loved Detroit before we started. I don't think you had them up, but I will praise you on that. You were singing Detroit's praises before we both were.
Yes, so we all had the Packers first, the Vikings second, the Lions third, Bears fourth. We were tit for tat, but there was a little note here that said that I was a big fan of the Lions. So anyway, we were chalk there, and then in the AFC, what do you guys think here?
I'm sure I planted my homer flag and had us first, and I think Christian was a hater last year. Why am I surprised by this? I'm pretty sure he had us third last year.
He had Cleveland first last year.
Yeah. Go on with that, Christian. Come on now.
I thought Deshaun Watson wasn't gonna, go down the path.
Chase had Baltimore first, the Bengals second, Cleveland third, Steelers fourth. Christian had Cleveland first, Bengals second, Baltimore third, Steelers fourth. I had the Bengals first, Baltimore second, Cleveland third, Steelers fourth. So I think I had the Steelers and Browns mixed up.
Yeah, they flipped, but you're running it back, same standings. You think the same? These teams have changed, but not drastically. And I see why you're running it back with your opinion. I flip-flop the Ravens and Bengals this year because I'm not going to know how good they are. And Christian's just going full 180, trying to get a rile out of me and drop.
No, I'm not, man. I just do not see Lamar being in a passing offense is a good idea. I stand by that, man. He just has never been successful at throwing a deep ball. I understand the weapons could be the problem, but I just don't see the new offense working in Lamar's favor. And if it doesn't work, Lamar and the offensive coordinator, I do not see that ending well.
I love you regardless, Christian. It's going to be a fun division to watch. And I'm glad we're done. And we are a week away. And no more talking about this. We're done with our division pods. We're going to be doing, for those who are listening, we're doing some previews on the upcoming games Sunday and the Thursday night football game between KC and Detroit, who obviously we both picked to win divisions. Outside of Christian has KC finishing second. Regardless, we see the finish line, the light at the end of the tunnel. We're done with the predictions, and we're to football finally. And we want to thank all of you who's with us, and continue to like, support, comment, share our stuff, tell a friend, tell an enemy, and get this thing moving, because we're hitting the home stretch and we're going to try to hit it running.
Yes, sir. Can't be more excited, man. Right on
I can't
precipice
either,
of the season starting, and boy, am I more I'm ecstatic. I just can't hold it
Yeah.
in. But
Yeah.
I think that concludes the pod today. I appreciate everyone coming and listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.